Hello folks, Bobru.com here. Arne Pils is normally at the mic. Today I would like to finish off covering uh, cards from the new sets, Eldritch Moon, for both limited and constructed. So we have the full set. Last time when I was reviewing the link in the description for that part, I reviewed something like 1/3 of the set. Now I'm gonna try to quickly review the remaining 2/3. Probably I will have to go into part 3. So yeah, just to make it not gigantic videos, but something that you can probably watch in one go, maybe like 20 minutes or half an hour. So yeah, I think I will do a part 3 on Monday or on Tuesday, so watch out for that. It's just to make it more comfortable for you guys so that you don't have to go back to an hour-long video. Anyways, so deploy the Gatewatch. Basically, I think that card fits perfectly to Naya Super Friends, to Naya Planeswalkers, or even into green-white tokens to some extent, especially the one that kind of splashes a couple of Chandra off of Nisa. That card fits perfectly into that deck. Because that deck has the highest concentration of Planeswalkers, and then you probably will be able to hit at least 1 out of top 7. So when you hit 2 Planeswalkers out of that deck into play, that's insane. That's pretty much game over. Especially if it's Chandra to clean the board, and then you have, let's say, like Arlene Cord or Nahiri or Gideon to produce guys at the same time, at the same turn. So yeah, that would be just sick. Of course, it's made kinda really fair instead of just totally busted because it's sorcery speed, but yeah, that card is pretty good. But so far I think like that's the only deck that really wants this kind of card. As far as construct is concerned, pretty much a bluff, or what is it called, a whiff for limited, that's for sure. Minus dilation. Interesting card, but probably not for competitive constructed. Liliana, I'm kind of a bit disappointed. Mana cost 3 and a single color makes it much more playable than otherwise. She kind of defends herself. Her second ability is useful, but then you can't actually just use it 2 turns in a row, so you'll have to, like, if you use it first turn, then you have to plus her to be able to use the second ability again, and that's kind of bad. And then the ultimate is pretty good. It doesn't finish the game right there, but then, because it's an emblem, so basically you get 2 zombies, then if they survive, then you get next turn 4 2/2 zombies, and then what is it, 6, etc. But then if the opponent kills them, you still get like 2 zombies next turn. So yeah, it's pretty much like a never-ending story. And of course there is the Virulent Plague. Actually, I think Virulent Plague will be even better just because this Liliana exists and you want to kind of like permanently shut down that thing, because it's not just Liliana. At that point, if it gets to this point, it's an emblem, so you can't do anything about that. So Virulent Plague at least consistently kind of deals with that, unless there is a Gideon emblem, and then your guys are at least 1/1s. The Hero's Wrath is good, and I think it best fits into something like Grixis controlled Goblin Dark Dwellers, Jace Kalitas deck, because then it makes your Jace better, it makes Call Against Command better, it makes Dark Dwellers better. So yeah, probably like a 1 main, 1 sideboard. I don't know, like the card seems quite powerful. I just don't know basically how to find so much space to fit in more than like 1 or 2 in the deck. This Gref Widow Spider is pretty good, it's pretty bonkers. It's a pretty much perfect card for the black-green Aurora or Seasons Pass deck. because in that deck, basically activates Delirium the easiest out of all the existing archetypes. And for 5 mana, a lot of the time you will get a free 5 reach, which is great, and then free extra 1/2 reach spiders, which is pretty sick. That's a lot of meat. It's not quite on the Hornet Nest, Hornet Queen power level, but it's pretty good. Plus, if the spider leaves, then you can drain them if you have a lot of mana, and that's what actually black-green deck ends up having a lot of the time. It ramps pretty well, it has a lot of ways to stall the ground, not so much in the air, but thanks to this vein, that is kind of closed. But then that deck really wants a lot of mana sinks, and that ability on this spider is pretty neat for that matter. Then what's new since the last time? Zygarde's Aids, not super excited. It doesn't cantrip, it doesn't provide you direct value, so that's the problem I have with that card, but it might turn out to be quite playable in Constructed. Imprisoned in the Moon, I really like it. It's kind of like that green commander card turning a permanent into a forest for 3 mana. It's kind of like the same deal. Problem with this card is that it doesn't deal with artifacts and enchantments. It's only creature, land, or planeswalker, so there is a downside there. On the other side, it's a blue card that can deal with hard permanents, and blue has a lot of hard time dealing with planeswalkers or creatures if it's just some blue magic. Yeah, definitely a playable card, and it will be a good way to deal with indestructible or creatures like that, creatures that you don't want to just kill, but just want to turn them or exile them or something like this. The Mirrorwind Dragon, I'm not sure if I talked about it last time, I think not. Basically, it's playable because not only it's a 4/5 flying for 5, but basically it works. This ability works good either when they try to kill this thing, or they try to, or you want to pump this dragon or one of your creatures. So yeah, when you have like a pump spell or something like that, then you can help the rest of your team, and then when they try to kill this creature, they will put at risk some of their creatures as well. So the dragon kind of protects itself a little bit, so this is why I think it's playable, but I'm not super excited about it. But it might actually be something crazy that what some big red might need in standard to. Well, it would be pretty cool, like, to have this kind of archetype, not just green-red goggles or green-red Tron, but some kind of big reds, or I don't know, not necessarily just red, but splashing something, maybe like a Jaunt, I don't know, something along those lines. Splendid Reclamation is sick. Basically, what strikes to me is that you can totally abuse it in Modern and Legacy, but I think there's probably a way to break this card in Standards as well. Anyway, this kind of card might not be like what's missing in Modern or Legacy, but the card itself is pretty damn powerful, and I think there's probably a way to make it busted with fetch lands and ghost quarters and tech edges and a lot of stuff like that, and cycle lands. I do like the permitting mass. Basically what this does is that, if I understand it correctly, you have this 1 mana 1/3, and then if it fights, let's say, with a bigger creature, then okay, it's gonna probably die, but then it's gonna turn that creature into 1/3. I believe that's how it works. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if I'm correct, then this card is actually playable. Devils are like somewhat good. You don't actually have to make them be blocked by something on their side, so you can skip that part if you want to. If you just want to get in for damage and mess up with their head. The Ball Lightning was so much better because Groundbreaker was just the same thing. Blistering Firecat was probably better because you had one more power and then you had the morph capability, things like that. Yeah, so compared to like Ball Lightning, one less mana, and I mean this one is one more mana basically, and then you have this ability to make it be blocked. So I guess it's a good thing that you can use it kind of as removal. Yeah, this card probably will see play along with that dragon in some big red, and maybe with that 4 mana for weird 4/9 angel. Don't like Dark Salvation, too much mana, but in Commander and such it will be a pretty good card. Then there is this Spirit for 1 mana, which I think is pretty ridiculous. Basically 1 mana, 1/1 flyer enters play. I mean, when another Spirit enters play, this guy gets bigger, and then you can sacrifice this thing to counter instant sorcery, and then they have to pay X, where X is this thing's power. So it's kind of like the Owl from from the new Ravnica, which we saw being played in the Monoblade Devotion. And I think cards like this will make the Spirits actually a playable archetype at Standard. Because you have this Owl, which is actually strictly better than the Owl, basically. Because you can make this thing bigger. Of course, with some things, Monoblade Devotion was able to make their team a bit bigger as well. I think there was some pump, like it wasn't just Master of the Waves. I think there was something. Anyhow, this card is crazy, and one of the reasons why Spirits will probably be a good archetype, and the one that I think I might be starting to build Grefrets later, but I guess like we can go through Grefrets now. So you have this 2/1 for 2, and then you have the other half, which is a 3/3 for 5, which brings a creature to your hand. But when you have 2, you get a big dude that is pretty crazy. So either cards are fine. I mean, like 2/1 for 2 is not super exciting, but the other half is a bit better, and both are like okay in limited, and together you get a very good card. So there is that. Right. This missile is fun. Actually, like the best scenario for it, I think in Legacy, although I don't think this card will be played in Legacy that much, because it's not Mind Break Trap, which can be played in any deck, even in Elves in the sideboard, and you can cast it for 0. But ideal scenario will be something like them casting Infernal Tutor and then cracking Lionside Diamond in response to that thing, so that they get the Hellbent part of the Infernal Tutor. With this card you can basically nullify both of those things. So when people are having something weird combo and they basically respond to their own things, then you can basically blow up all of their game that particular turn. Exile and Spells is nice. Basically it goes around uncounterable things like the Old Emrakul, for example, so spells that can't be countered, for instance. And uncountering these abilities could be pretty good, but because it's just this cost, there's nothing else pretty much, so that's why I have my doubts about its playability in Standard or in older formats. And then Crypt Breaker is basically another example of a 1-drop that's basically gonna make tribal archetype playable in Standards, in this case zombies. So it's not quite like Pack Rats. and you'll have to tap this thing, so you cannot like attack and make more dudes with it. But the second ability kind of comes down, balances out a little bit. The ability to get more gas going when you're in a stalemate. It's a stagnation on the board, and you need like to draw into something to break that stalemate. Plus, Packrat was pretty busted card for limited and constructed. Everybody hated that card, so this one is like just more balanced, more fair. I really like the Reveler as well. It reminds me of Tom Stalker and Tassiger. Basically, I think it's gonna be one of those cards that it's bound to be playable in standard and in like modern things like that. The problem is that it's not any card that's instants or sorceries, but then again you have Blura, Delver in Modern and Legacy, so I think those decks will be quite happy to have this card, because then they can kind of draw into something more relevant, like more bolts to finish their opponents, things like that. Plus that deck kind of runs out of gas very quickly. Spirit of the Hunt is very good. 3 Flea Fresh for free, and then you basically increase toughness of a bunch of your cards. Also another example of a card that might make wolves or werewolves actually playable as a deck in standard. But I don't think I saw quite enough. I think I saw enough to definitely make vampires a good deck. Definitely a lot of good tools for humans, whether it's green-white or red-white. I definitely saw potentially enough of material for zombies to be a playable deck, because between that blue-black legends, Gisa and Geralt, plus the Script Breaker, plus Liliana, I think we might see a zombies deck, but I'm not sure. It's like on the verge. It's on the verge. And I don't think it's enough for werewolves. It's definitely now enough for spirits, that's for sure. That deck is gonna be crazy. I really want to start. Like look at this. Okay, this one is human horror, but it feels like a spirit. But then you have this selfless spirit next to it, which is just like, well, you have all those sweepers. Well, I don't care. So it's crazy having that kind of card and for that archetype, and it's a 2-1 flyer for 2. Okay, it doesn't have flash, but okay. Then we have this spirit to make your creatures indestructible. Then you have the spirit that can counter instant sorceries, and then we have another one, which I'm gonna talk about very soon. Collective Defiance is a crazy card, another card for the Grixis deck, I feel like, because then you can recast it with Goblin Dark Dwellers, and you can actually pay escalate, as it turns out, so you can get a lot of value if you have like more than 5 mana, let's say like 6. It's a crazy card. You can basically mulligan your hand, and that makes Chase better, Goblin better, Call Against Command better, so it's a crazy card. Free damage to add is also fun, because there is a lot of that incremental damage between Call Against Command and this and some other spells, so all of it kind of piles up and adds up together. Collective Effort is also a crazy card. Basically, what can I say? In green-white tokens, everybody's gonna probably be playing, I think, at least 2 copies of it in green-white tokens. It's just sick. Like, you have a lot of creatures to pay all of the escalate extra cost, and then you can like kill a big guy, kill some enchantments, and spread a bunch of counters and everything. It's just sick. Although there are not like super many enchantments right now that you want to blow up, but there are some still. Stasis Snare and Silk Wraps and stuff like that. At least those. So ways to exile creatures or to sometimes deal with other permanents. The deck has already Dromoka's Command, but this card is also very nice. Talked about like how Brutality is pretty sick, Garrison is pretty sick, Evolution is sick. I think Docent of Perfection is a fine card. But I have my doubts about it in Constructed actually. But it's one of those rares that you open and you actually want to move into that very distinguished archetype, I think, in the set, the blue-red spells. You have like a few good tempo, win conditions, and a bunch of spells, which makes those cards just insane. I really don't get the thing with the Providence. I think that card is just weird. I'm probably missing something. What else I didn't cover from last time? So yeah, a bunch of like very solid limited cards. There are very few strictly bad cards for limited in this set. I think it's the power level of cards on average in limited is gonna be quite jammed, so there's nothing really bad. Everything is like quite playable or very good. So Herald, the spirit for 3 mana, of course reminds a bunch of people about Pestermite. It's not quite Pestermite, but what I like about it is that, well, it cannot untap creatures, and then yeah, it's a bit weird, but then still a 2/1 flyer with flash, and then it's not just this guy but any other spirits. So yeah, like spirits will be a very good tempo deck. So don't expect this Dusk Fister to be a constructed card, but very nice and limited. That's for sure, just a big flyer. Hamlet Captain potentially will be in the green-white humans if that plus stuff like Jermo's Command will be justifiable to make it just green-white, but on the other hand, there is Banned Humans, which is a playable deck and it exists. So yeah, you'll probably see this card in there as well. Yeah. You'll probably see it a lot, unless power kind of pie in terms of archetype dimensions will change, and then tokens or humans will become less of a good deck choice, but I find it hard to imagine. I think the struggle is gonna continue for other decks to beat humans and tokens. Grave Harvest is decent, probably like in a sideboard 1 or 2. Makes your creatures harder for them to block, and then each turn you can create a zombie, and sometimes maybe more than one, but that's unlikely. But anyway, very good sideboard card for zombies if that deck will actually be good. Blood Mist is like good commander card, I guess. Really like the cycle with creatures like this Extricator or Sin. All of those cards seem quite good, in my opinion, for limited. Probably not constructed. Same for Geists. Scryfish was probably better, 1 mana less. Okay, it was 1 toughness less, but then you would be able to do it whenever you want. On the other hand, with this thing you can block and scry at any point, because with the Scryfish you were able just to keep it always untapped, or let's say like you desperately wanted to dig for something, so then you will tap it and then you can't block with it, etc. So yeah, nice limited card for any slow decks. Probably much better in sealed, I guess. I could be wrong. Definitely like the Full Emissary, like definitely a constructed playable card. It's like even without the submerge thing, I think it's quite okay. But of course, yeah, we're talking more of some green whites, no, green rent, Eldrazi ramp or something like this. So yeah, once I look at it a bit more, yeah, it's not really a humans card, it's more of a ramp card. But I like it, the card is pretty sick. The stag underneath it is okay. It's not quite Shriekmaw. It's worse as a card, but then the stag can kill a black creature, and of course, ideal would be to fight a 2/4 creature. But yeah, it's fine. Maybe not a constructed that, probably not strong enough for constructed. Um, but yeah, I really like it unlimited. The 2/1 Manus Wolf is quite okay for limited as well. Then it's either Liliana Salite or another creature that will replace the Nantuku Husk for Black-Green Aristocrats to just still live the dream. But yeah, you need a sacrifice outlet, that's the problem. But this card still might make it to just zombies archetype. This Drugskull Spirit is probably not for standard, but very good and limited, that's for sure. Scarred Leptary, very nice for constructed, I think. Jason Ingenuity was playable, Opportunity was playable, and in the decks that like those cards, this one will be playable for sure. Because this will cost basically 4 mana, draw 3 at instant speed. Come on, like that's gotta be good. I really like the Geisel Vigil. Probably not in the Spirits archetype, but maybe in some other archetype. 2 free flying for 2 is quite okay. It might make it to some zoo-ish deck in Modern, like green-white hate bears or something. Because fetch plus creature plus some spell. Yeah, and there you go. So there are some applications for that card. I think it will be playable in constructed. Really like the advanced Wishwing and limited on all cards like that. Disposal will be okay. I kind of feel like it will be much better if instead of sacrifice a creature, it will be like sacrifice a permanent, so then you can just eat the land and discard the card and kill 2 things. But then maybe again that card will be a bit more abusive for limited, kinda, because then you just like sacrifice a land and discard the land from your hand, and there you go, you just kill 2 big threats with 1 card basically. Sometimes just turn 4 or even 5, although like at that point you probably won't need it, but maybe you just want to keep up the tempo. So yeah, but the card is okay. Not super exciting, but I think you probably have to play it in limited if you have it. Berserk is just for limited, you don't need such a thing in constructed. The 3 mana Madness cards are much better because they're straight follow up to 2 mana discard outlet creatures. Clear Shot is good, that's for sure. Cropus Sigil, well, I like the green enchantment from Innistrad a bit more because it kind of like serves the purpose of those chains much better. Because then you sacrifice it in the early game to fit Delirium for later cards, and it searches you a Delirium card, so it kind of like goes more smoothly when you want to curve out and stuff like that. The Sphere Blade Vampire, I don't know. probably have already too many discard outlets, but I guess you need more of those cards to make it easier in limited. But yeah, you probably don't play it in constructed because you can only discard in combat, so that's a bummer. Oftentimes you would just like not attack with your 2-drop and sit on 3 mana open, and then they attack and you surprise them, and they will always have to gamble, and sometimes just not attack because they might think like you may have like a instant speed like 3/3 or 4/3 or 4/4 or something like that with Madness. And instead you would just play something else, like just the instant removal spell or something like that, if they don't attack, for example. And then next turn they will have to guess again if they don't have any way to get rid of this 2 mana discard creature. Rise from Regrave is a nice reprint, I like it. Makes another potential type of archetype viable. Fortune Favor is not quite Factory Fiction, but Factory Fiction was busted, so yeah, this is okay. It's 1 color, it's instant, and it's kind of fun, and in the right decks it might actually be playable, so yeah, I think people will adopt it in some cards, but yeah, it will require a lot of thinking and a lot of good deck building skills to build around this card to make it more valuable. Faith Unbroken is pretty nice. Really like this card. Probably not constructed playable, but very nice and limited indeed. If Give No Ground would, instead of giving +2/+6, if it would give like +6/+2, then I will be way more happy, because then you can have much better trades. This way you will still get some decent trades, but not as good as like if it would be like +6/+2. But I guess then this card will be pretty sick and limited. So the good part about Lunar Force, this next card, this blue enchantment, which kind of reminds me of Standstill, is that it just sits there and then you don't have to keep up mana, but then they can play around this and you don't have much of control. But then if you have a way to bounce permanents back to your hand, or things like Sun Titan, so yeah, then this card might be just insane. We might see it, I don't know, tried out in the Blue-White Titan in Modern, even though I haven't seen that deck for quite some time now. But because there is so much of aggro right now in the metagame, so this that Blue-White Titan, Sun Titan deck in Modern might come back. I think it deserves coming back. Don't like Praying Questions, just not a great card. People will try it, but I will have to like see it myself in practice, probably not on my side, and see whether it's good. So they list 3 and they put a card from their hand on top, so it's just too hard to set up. Not a fan. Sprite in Flames though is pretty sick. Even though it's 7 mana, but it's instant, and you can sometimes nuke down a bunch of creatures, and then if you have some board presence, then you can get some pretty good trades, etc. Notice Constrictor is basically like Wild Mongrel from the past, from the Odyssey block, but instead of changing color, this thing now has reach, which might be what we want, because printing cards like Wonder and stuff like that to give out flying and other abilities will take too much space. So you want to bring new stuff and not just bring Madness all over again. Plus all that stuff was in Eternal Masters anyway, for those with a lot of nostalgia. I really don't like this new Fog Repel, the Abominable SAS non-human. It's pretty much the deck that some potential Turbo Fog in Standard will struggle against. Human stacks or tokens, and Just not including humans is so big, and then this card can't be really main decked, so it's a sideboard card, which makes it kind of like very bad. This means that you might seem like Turbo Fog might be there in the metagame, but not quite yet. Crusader is okay. Actually, might be more than just okay when I think about it. Having another vampire with this set is not going to be much of a problem. There are many playable ones that you wouldn't really mind playing anyways without synergies like this. And then having a life linker in that deck is could be quite important. Shreds of Sanity, very good card. Has potential in, let's say, modern, things like that, but it's not really needed. And then I don't see a big combo deck with red and standard right now, let's say that, and then modern. It's not really a card that's been missing, so I don't know, but the card is good. If there is gonna be like a new combo deck, standard or modern, then that's a good thing to keep in mind. Savage Alliance is great. Probably something that will be played in some red, really like aggressive beatdown decks. Very main deckable, I think. Pretty main deckable. Not too many, maybe like one or two. But yeah, quite main deckable. This one drop vampire, it's okay. I'm not sure what I would want to play really. Like how many one drops, and do I lean towards red one drops or black? Probably nowadays you have to lean towards black one drops because the mod requirements for a lot of madness cards want you a lot of black, and there is that double black to drop the Vampire Lord, so you'd want that. Then see, Murder was great. This one drop human is pretty okay, probably not constructed, unlike the one that gave you a clue. Yeah, and the deck's probably gonna be more towards white actually. Even than banned humans. So, but yeah, pretty good limited card, that's for sure. And yeah, cards like this with Earth Lighting really make me feel like there is a push towards this blue-red spells archetype. Abandoned Reason is pretty good. It will be horrible to play around and limited, that's for sure. I hate that I would have to guess whether they have such a thing or not when a red deck keeps mana up. Incendiary Flow is not really Incinerate, it's more like Volcanic Hammer because it's sorcery speed, not instant, and Incinerate was instant. But yeah, it's good because there is a lot of like zombies stuff and some spells that recure things, and then there is Liliana as well, so cards that exile might become relevant again in competitive standards. Convolute is fine for limited, but we know that cards like this often don't actually become constructed playables, like standard not playables. But the blue-red Flyers deck actually played something like this, but then actually played something that says like play free, and if it's countered then it's exiled, so that clause was probably very useful and very relevant, because there is call against commands, Jace, and a bunch of other things. So yeah, don't expect Convolute to make it. Whispers of Emrakul is basically like having Hymn to Torek in Standard or in Modern. Because you can't have him in Modern, I think this card actually might see play, but then again, you have a bunch of 1 mana discard spells. You have Liliana, you have Colligan's Command, so I'm not sure how much is it really needed, but having this option is kinda nice, plus it helps the 8-track deck in Modern that mono black discard deck. Contingency is okay. The problem I have about it is that it doesn't really kind of get you a card, so you're down a card when you play it. Yeah, so that's the problem. So probably be very low pick in draft and very niche cards for drafts. And I don't really see it in standard either. So just a thing that if you really need something to switch on Delirium and zombie shenanigans and stuff like this, then yeah, you would play it. Bone of Emrakul, like it, and limited, of course not a constructed card. Same probably goes for the Spring Sausage Ritual. Like, I want to actually name it. But of course you have to have something like this in limited. But yeah, it's just for limited, not for constructed. Then Lone Road Home, pretty decent, probably not constructed, but I would probably play it in limited, I think. Especially in aggressive tempo deck with flyers and stuff like spirits, for example. Cultist is fine. Drawing a card and then like 2/2 for free, it's very acceptable. So yeah, there is this Galvanion Hollowed, which might be good for aristocrats and constructed, but I'm not so sure. But definitely a very strong limited card, that's for sure. Because we just know, since a lot are blocked, that cards like this actually become out of hand very quickly. It can just destroy the whole game. Really like this greeting for limited, that's for sure. 4 damage to a guy at 2 mana with Madness, that's good. Of course the hard cast is big, but well, it's okay. Primal Druid is not Sakura Troy Balder, and opponents can just not attack or attack with something small instead, so this thing doesn't die, but this thing has potential. Problem is, like, the decks that have a lot of sacrifice outlets don't really need such a card, so maybe things will change and the standard will evolve in such a way that this card will be demanded in standard. Okay folks, there are a bunch of things left, but I'll leave it for part 3, I think, but it will come soon, Monday, Tuesday tops, something like that. I don't want to make this video just too long, so I hope you enjoyed it. Check the website, don't forget to subscribe, follow me on Twitch and our team, and yeah, stay tuned folks. Until the next sale, goodbye.